G'day. With everywhere being in lockdown until recently, have you ever actually explored everything around your home area? Let's go explore some interesting things around where I live. No getting across here today. You'll find a playlist of my 2011 flood videos in the description area below. This is the Moggill Bellbowrie, merely a few kilometres from where I live. You can pause the video here if you like for a proper read. The Bellbowrie is actually 10,000 years old. There even used to be a deer farm around here. And the occasional wild deer is still spotted crossing to this day. Well, this is the Alison Baden Clay Memorial, which is also not far from where I live. You can Google the story. It's a rather sad one, about a wife who was murdered by her husband in 2012. I did a short video on that a while back too. Also just up the road from me is the Moggill Post Office, which is where I lost my new drone on its very second flight at the back of the post office.
Low battery warning. Landing.
No! No! Oh no! Oh, where is it? Where is it? Oh, it's landing by itself. Where is it? Originally it was the Moggill shop, which came in very handy during the floods, because they actually rode across some supplies because our area was cut off entirely on all roads leading into it. As you may have noticed, every time I transition to old footage, there's a certain sound you'll hear. Let me demonstrate. Okay, I guess it doesn't work all the time. When the post office was flooded, it was later moved to a park nearby, and then eventually re-established where the Moggill shop was. Coles also flooded in the 2011 floods. However, as we speak, the procrastination has finally ended and they're constructing a new site for Coles behind the post office. So when they've finished that complex, they're apparently going to move the post office to a temporary location, then re-establish it inside the shopping centre or attached to the shopping centre. I didn't even know that just down the road was a cemetery until a few years ago. Down below we've got Well, would you believe it, I'm here at the cemetery and I've run into someone. I'll let you introduce yourself, Neville.
Hi, I'm Neville Marsh and I look after the cemetery, and my colleagues in Moggill Historical Society are currently repairing the graves, and we can recommend that anyone who wants a quiet walk come up here and just have a look at the work we're doing. It's a lovely spot.
Well, that's awesome, and I'll leave a link below and you can follow up with Neville if you have any interest. Cheers. Thanks, Neville.
Okay, too easy.
It's a lovely spot. And this is the memorial garden where people have their ashes sprinkled. Let's go for a drive a little further out of the area. As they say, the best laid plans of mice and men often go astray. Unfortunately, it seems to be a day where they're doing a lot of earthworks here too. I last came here to Lake Manchester well over 20 years ago, and I remember back then my mate and I did drive down to the actual dam wall. Evidently you have to walk down. It's quite a way. Not allowed to drive a car anymore. So let's go fly a drone. Originally constructed in 1916 and called the Cabbage Tree Creek Dam, it was last upgraded in 2008 to increase its storage capacity. The dam was then connected to the regional water grid. As I've shown you in a previous video, Wivenhoe Dam is South East Queensland's largest water storage and is the main supply of water for Brisbane and the greater Ipswich area. And if we would have turned left instead of right, we'd end up at College's Crossing. Downstream, in the 2011 floods, nearby College's Crossing was decimated. Well, this is College's Crossing, where that sign nearly was underwater just over a week ago. There's the bridge, about ready to be open in a day or so, and the water came right up to there. And in fact, after they'd partially restored the area, a mere couple of years later, it was once again flooded, destroying all the work they'd done. A few kilometres away, just above the upstream tidal flow of seawater at College's Crossing, is the Mount Crosby Weir. It was also badly damaged during the 2011 floods. This is the Mount Crosby Weir. The nearby Mount Crosby pumping station is used to transport drinking water that is sourced from the weir, as well as Lake Manchester Dam. It supplies water to Brisbane and nearby cities and towns within the South East Queensland water grid. Of course, you've all seen plenty of the Moggill Ferry on my videos, and it too was severely affected at the time of the floods. The original Moggill Ferry is almost about to go into the water. This is the Moggill Ferry. It's gone over the park. Wow. Jeepers. Holy smoke. The water's almost up to it. And way out there is where you normally catch the ferry. We're standing on the original Moggill Ferry. Well, that's the park underwater. Unreal.
There's someone on the ferry.
Yeah, I think the generators are going on the ferry.
Yeah, well, someone caretakes they live on there.
Unreal. To the point they were planning on blowing it up to sink it, so that it didn't break its moorings and cause further damage downstream. And today there's no ferry. No old ferry, no new ferry. But a Black Hawk helicopter was actually used to bring in an anchor for it, as it had broken one of its moorings. Note the Black Hawk. And the new anchorage. And this is where the original Moggill Ferry was just a week ago. It's now part of history. They've since replaced that ferry with a newer one. So we're riding on the ferry. This is the new ferry. They replaced it maybe 2 years ago. The old one was old, I guess. So now you've seen some of the interesting things around where I live. And it shows you don't have to go far from where you live to find some interesting things. Leave a comment below what interesting things you have where you live. Thanks for joining me on this short trip. Cheers. If you're not a subscriber, don't forget to click that button and hit the little bell so you can get all the notifications of my new videos.